Facing barbarian migrations and a retreating Roman army, European cities reorganized themselves for defense. There are some great examples of this. This example comes from Arles in southern France on the Rhone River. It was a Roman colony. The picture you see is the reconstruction of the Roman arena. The Roman city, which had stretched around the arena, simply retreated into the arena as a walled village. Arles' neighbor city, Nîmes, did the exact same thing. You can find another example in Lucca in Italy, where the people in the cities felt so insecure that they retreated into the arena and used the arena as walls to defend themselves in this time of disintegration. Filling the power vacuum left by the Romans were the Franks. The Franks had lived on the northern side of the Rhine. As Roman armies vacated their post, the Franks moved in and established their own sovereignty. They claimed to be federati. They were going to be federated with Rome. They had delegated authority from the Roman Empire to rule over the territory of Gaul. This syncretism allowed Roman warlords like Clovis to claim that they were simply Romans. Clovis converted to Roman Catholicism in 496. His conversion allowed him to establish relationships with the Roman elites in the cities. Other Germanic tribes were Arians. They followed the teachings of Arius, who claimed that Jesus was not eternal, but that he was exalted by God. Arian Christianity and Roman Christianity had competed among the barbarians. By converting to Roman Catholicism, Clovis gave himself a legitimate in to Roman society. Well after Roman armies retreated from the frontier, Roman armies continued and Roman civilization continued in the south of Gaul. And so Clovis turned to Roman bishops to establish his legitimacy as the rightful heirs to Rome. The blending of Roman and Frankish traditions is called feudalism by historians. Clovis was a warlord. He moved in and took control of areas vacated by Roman armies. But then he solidified that control by forming alliances with the local elites. He continued to recognize and use local comites, or companions. This was a Roman imperial word that indicated authority from the emperor himself. Clovis, as king of the Franks, used these holdovers from the Roman Empire to maintain control of his vast territory. Instead of governing directly, he subdivided his territories among these local elites. These became his comites, his companions. Assisting the Merovingian kings were the mayors of the palace. These became the direct assistants to the king himself. One of the most famous was Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer. Charles fought a battle at Tours and Poitiers in 732. Muslim armies had already taken control of Spain and then crossed the Pyrenees and were marching towards the Rhine River itself. Charles met them at Tours and met them at Poitiers and drove them back across the Pyrenees. This established the Merovingian dynasty as the protectors of Christian Europe against the Muslims coming across through Spain. Eventually, the Merovingian kings went mad, and the mayors of the palace seized control of the Frankish kingdom for themselves, establishing a new dynasty, the Carolingian dynasty. The first of which was Pepin the Short. He reigned from 751 to 768. Pepin made an alliance with Pope Stephen II. This helped Pepin establish his legitimacy. Pepin recognized the donation of Constantine as a real historical document. In exchange for recognizing the Pope's secular authority over the papal states in central Italy, the Pope recognized Pepin's sovereignty over Roman Gaul, that Pepin was indeed the successor of the Roman Empire. In the next generation, this was taken a step farther with Charles the Great, Charlemagne, from 768 to 842. Charlemagne sought to recreate the Roman Empire across Western Europe. Not only did Charlemagne secure his southern border against any further Muslim advances, but then he pushed the empire east into Austria, or the Österreich, the Eastern Mark. And so his empire stretched from the Pyrenees all the way over to Central Europe. Charlemagne got a boost at Christmas in 800. The king of the Franks traveled to Rome and attended Mass. At that Mass, the Pope crowned Charlemagne the Holy Roman Emperor. Charlemagne was not simply a foederati. Charlemagne was not simply a delegate of the Roman Emperor. Charlemagne was the Roman Emperor. Rome lived in the West. Charlemagne led what is called the Carolingian Renaissance. Charlemagne gathered at his court scholars to copy and preserve ancient documents. They invented a whole new script called the Carolingian script that introduced lowercase letters. The Romans only had uppercase letters. Under Charlemagne's direction, scholars divided the letters with capital letters as well as lowercase letters, making the script easier to read. Charlemagne exercised his control through what's called a diarchy between bishops and counts. Two types of rule, one spiritual, one secular. The bishops ruled the cities, the counts ruled the countryside. All of those bishops and all of those counts answered to Charlemagne, the Holy Roman Emperor. He appointed them, he chose them from amongst his family and friends, and they owed their personal allegiance to him. To ensure that allegiance remained solid, he created a post called the Missi Dominici, those sent out by the Lord. He was the Lord. The Missi Dominici would be his eyes and ears around his empire, making sure that the bishops he appointed and the counts that he appointed would answer to imperial authority. Roman armies retreated from the west. Rome died in the west, but here the Roman Empire lives in the west, the Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne established a partnership with the Bishop of Rome. And so they established what's called the doctrine of the two swords. A secular sword by the Holy Roman Emperor and a spiritual sword wielded by the Bishop of Rome. Together, bishops and counts, emperor and popes ruled over Western Europe as the Roman Empire continued to live.